All right, 5 weeks remain in the regular season, and the 49ers are right in the thick of the playoff chase. So I think it's time to take inventory, circle the wagons, figure out exactly where this team is at, position by position, the same way that we did throughout essentially all of preseason and the training camp. And even the offseason, I did some of these videos to illustrate where the 49ers stand as they get ready to go into battle. Now the stakes are higher than ever because you have a manageable schedule the rest of the way, but you also have some challenges. And if you're Kyle Shanahan's team, not only do you want to hang on to at least the number 7 seed in NFC, that's where the 49ers are right now, but you want to climb up that pecking order if possible. Now, the highest the 49ers can realistically get is number 5 because the top 4 seeds belong to the division winners, and we can essentially rule the 49ers out of potentially catching Arizona. I think that would require Arizona losing all of the rest of its games and the 49ers winning all of the rest of theirs. So that's not going to happen. The number 5 seed, though, would theoretically allow the 49ers to play the Dallas Cowboys, who should win their division and be the number 4 seed, I would predict. So you'd much rather go to Dallas, indoor stadium, good weather, all that stuff, versus go to Green Bay in the wild card round in January, which would happen if the 49ers ended the season today as the number 7 seed. Green Bay would be the 2. So instead of playing Tampa Bay or Green Bay, you'd rather play Dallas on the road. That's all further down the road. To get there, the 49ers have to perform now. I'll have a preview of their game against Cincinnati dedicated to that coming out a little bit later. I already talked about the special teams, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're a YouTube follower right now watching there. Get on YouTube, subscribe to David Lombardi's YouTube, and go from there because we are going to go deep into the 49ers roster. We're going to do it frequently, not just in this video. Just try to blanket cover what the 49ers need to do as they set themselves up here for this coming run. They've won 3 out of 4. The loss was the most recent game. So the 49ers currently have a bad taste in their mouths, and it's time for them to try to get that out against the Bengals. So let's go through this position by position just to take inventory of where the 49ers are right now. Questions are welcome. I could be on for about 15 to 20 minutes going through this roster. Then I have to start heading down to the South Bay. I have to go down to Fambrini's, get a good sandwich in Palo Alto on the way to Santa Clara. Practice is a little bit later today since it's Thursday, and we'll see if Deebo Samuel is in the mix for the 49ers. But here you go. Quarterback, we could start there. Garoppolo, Lance, Sudfeld. A lot of people ask me about Trey Lance. Well, he's developing, and it's possible to develop behind the scenes on the practice squad because not on the practice squad, running the scout team. Don't worry, Lance is not on the practice squad. Misspoke there. Sudfeld's on the practice squad. Lance has been running the scout team. 49ers have been excited about the last couple of weeks because he's been able to emulate different styles of quarterbacks. First, he was emulating Kirk Cousins. Then he got to emulate a scrambler like Russell Wilson. So you go from pocket style guy to mobile guy. And obviously the 49ers want Trey Lance to be a hybrid of both. So they found that valuable. That was interesting hearing 49ers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel talk about the experience that Lance is getting in that regard. But in general, there is just this dumb narrative right now going around that Trey Lance can't improve at practice, and practice is where you do improve, especially a guy who has so little relative experience compared to the rest of the NFL. The 49ers need Trey Lance to be able to protect himself when he gets out onto the field. The issue that the 49ers ran into when they had to thrust Trey Lance into action really against their will because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt was that the whole playbook wasn't available to Trey Lance. They needed to try to win that game against Arizona earlier this season. But to do that, they had to resort to more of a running attack because Trey really wasn't ready to deliver the 30 to 35 consistent decisions and executions from the pocket that are needed to be delivered during any given NFL game. So Kyle Shanahan called a run-heavy game plan. From a health perspective for, Trey Lance's future, that did seem and was rash. But the 49ers were also trying to win. So that's the conundrum that you have, right? The best chance to win when Trey Lance has been out on the field has been a run heavy game plan. But you want to get that to the point where Trey Lance is comfortable enough that the best chance to win is not a run heavy game plan, where he can deliver more consistently from the pocket. And that's the work that you do on the scout team when people can't drill him on every single down, right? He's running the scout team, he's learning to tailor his game to several different situations. He's working on quickening his release. He's working on everything, except he's doing it in a protected environment. So that's where Trey Lance's development is right now. Where's Jimmy Garoppolo right now? Well, he had a great 5-game stretch. He played really well, and he came back down to earth against the Seattle Seahawks. So now, entering these final 5 games of the 2021 season, the Jimmy Garoppolo that the 49ers get from here on out will largely determine what the 49ers as a team accomplish before the playoffs begin and whether or not they even reach the playoffs. If you get the Jimmy Garoppolo that they did in the 5 games prior to Seattle, the 49ers will not only make the playoffs, they'll also have a chance to make a deep run into the playoffs, which would trigger all sorts of other discussions regarding the quarterback position. But it's way too early to talk about that kind of stuff. We need to figure out which Jimmy Garoppolo the 49ers will get moving forward over the next 5 games. Don't let anybody lie to you or tell you that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't good over the 5 games entering Seattle. He unquestionably played the way that the 49ers need him to over those 5 games. He was an ultra efficient passer, especially on third down, and it allowed the 49ers to unlock running at volume. If this team can rush at volume, that's something that can only happen when it passes at efficiency. But if it can rush at volume, it will imprint its brand of football. Garoppolo did that for 5 games. He wasn't able to do that thanks to the turnovers against Seattle. The two interceptions weren't good, and that really derailed the 49ers' effort, along with the special teams miscues. But Garoppolo's interceptions, just in those situations, especially the second one, can't happen. If he can do that, the 49ers will imprint their formula moving forward. All right, so let's move on to the running back room. Now, I highlighted in red the players with health issues here. At running back for the 49ers, Trenton Cannon obviously was taken away on an ambulance last week, but he's more of a special teams guy than a running back. Elijah Mitchell's dealt with like 6 or 7 different injuries this season. The guy is so tough. Remember that he had 32 touches against Minnesota with 2 separate injuries, right? He's playing with that rib injury and the finger injury. Well, now for Elijah Mitchell, he's dealing with concussion protocol and a little bit of a knee issue. So we'll see how he progresses throughout the rest of this week. If not, JaMycal Hasty should be an option for the 49ers. And Jeff Wilson, who's dealing with a little bit of an issue this week, is also in an uncertain boat for them moving forward. So you've got to be concerned with this running back room's health right now. There is optimism regarding Elijah Mitchell, and there's obviously a possibility that Deebo Samuel, who's shaded in his own version of red here in the receiver room, could come back and help the running back room. But I hope that everybody finally sees why the 49ers loaded up on as many running backs as possible, because these guys get hurt, especially within the context of their system. It seems that they have trouble staying healthy. And it's just so important for the 49ers to have a competent runner or runners. Otherwise, the offense just isn't able to execute the running at volume that it's designed to do. So you've seen them struggle without Elijah Mitchell. You've seen them move Deebo Samuel into the backfield to address the issue that I'm talking about. And now you just have to hope, if you're the 49ers, that at least one of those 2 guys is available to go against Cincinnati, preferably both. And if you had to pick one, then Deebo Samuel, because he's just such an all-around versatile player. He can really compromise the Bengals linebackers and their alignments in this game, which is what the 49ers have been doing with Deebo. You line him up in the offensive backfield, and you can just see opposing defensive coordinators' heads break. Oh my God, what are we going to do with this guy who could run like a running back, but can also get open like a wide receiver? Now, I even think, Greg Popo was on the show last week. Make sure you subscribe and go and check that out. We're talking about the fact that Deebo, he hits holes better than most running backs in the NFL, whereas he might not be as great against man coverage as the very top NFL receivers. But the fact that he can do both things, the fact that he can get open against man coverage. He might not be great, but he can hit the hole like a great running back. That makes him a unique offensive weapon. And as we move down to the receiver room, it's funny. I kind of blend these two together because we talk about the positionless nature of things and Kyle Shanahan going for those positionless skill positions. You could talk about Deebo Samuel as a receiver and as a running back. 49ers would like to have him in both rooms because the domino effect happens when Trent Sherfield has to fill in as one of the 49ers' top 3 receivers. Well, then he can't play special teams or his special teams role is reduced. And we see those special teams issues that the 49ers had last week. You want Sherfield in his number 4 receiver spot, focusing on special teams so he can be the ace there. That helps the whole 49ers roster. So Deebo Samuel in the lineup, if that ends up happening, is just such a huge boost on so many different fronts that people probably don't even initially think of. And special teams is one of the big domino effects that is not a good one for the 49ers when Deebo Samuel was out. I think Brandon Ayuk has obviously done impressive things. He's made strides over the past several weeks, but he needed to catch that football on third down later in the game against Seattle. 49ers may well win that game. They definitely aren't as desperate of a situation as they were, but dropping that third and long, Garoppolo put that ball where it needed to be. That was one. I mean, he jumped up a little bit, but Ayuk had it right here, and he just wasn't able to hold on to it coming down to the ground. Maybe there was a little too much pressure on him without Deebo Samuel in the lineup. I don't know. Brandon Ayuk, though, needs to make that play. The 49ers have been happy with the strides Brandon Ayuk has made, but the consistency can only get better from here on out. And that's going to be big moving down the stretch. So keep an eye out on Brandon Ayuk and if he can hold on to some of those big third down balls because the 49ers are going to need that moving forward, especially if Samuel comes back and defenses are focusing on him. George Kittle, that was one of his best career games. I really like that Charlie Warner's getting involved in the pass game. I think Warner's ahead of Ross Dwelley on the pecking order at this point, and that makes sense. Warner was a draft pick out of Georgia. Ross Dwelley was an undrafted free agent coming from the University of San Diego. So the 49ers like Charlie Warner's ability, his blocking ability more than Dwelley's. And, you know, if he can give you a catch or two a game, then that's a win. And if George Kittle can give you 6 catches for 181 yards, that's a huge win. So the tight end position is looking strong for the 49ers right now. Let's get to the offensive line. Trent Williams needs to be higher than 8th in the Pro Bowl voting, which makes the Pro Bowl voting a joke. But yeah, he's going to have a good matchup this week against Trey Hendrickson. I'm excited to watch that. Laken Tomlinson has allowed a couple pressures here over the past couple of weeks, but he remains a durable 49ers offensive lineman, and the left side of this front definitely remains a strength, especially with Alex Mack playing decent football this year. The right side is the right side. This is what the 49ers have to work with. You can scream Aaron Banks' name all you want. You could say that Jalen Moore should be playing instead of Compton, but the bottom line is that these are 2 rookies, and the 49ers don't deem them consistent or ready enough to play over Daniel Brunskill and Tom Compton. So entering these final 5 games, maybe something will shock me and Banks and Moore will get in there. But right now, the 49ers clearly favor what the veterans can bring to the table. And I'll tell you what, both Brunskill and Compton have done a good job run blocking this season. They can both move in space, especially Brunskill. That guy was 40 yards downfield in front of Deebo Samuel against Minnesota. But Compton has registered 2 consecutive games of excellent run blocking for the 49ers. Now, the pass blocking's been horrific, especially for Tom Compton. Nobody's pretending that it's been good. And Daniel Brunskill's obviously seen his struggles in that phase of the game as well. I'm excited to see him working against DJ Reader this week of the Bengals because that's going to be a key for the 49ers. But in terms of Compton, who's going to be faced up against Sam Hubbard of the Bengals, the edge rusher who works opposite Trey Hendrickson against right tackle, the 49ers simply need to execute a complementary formula that allows Compton to play to his strengths, and that is run blocking and not pass blocking. That 3rd and 8, red flag if somebody tries to blame Jimmy Garoppolo for the safety. He had no chance. Kyle Shanahan has confirmed he had no chance. Anybody who knows tape or football knows that Jimmy Garoppolo had no chance on the safety on 3rd and 8. The 49ers ran a slow developing play, a bunch of deep routes, and Tom Compton got steamrolled by Carlos Dunlap from the get-go. Right off the ball, Dunlap is around Jimmy Garoppolo's neck, safety, sack, game tied. 49ers don't see the lead again against Seattle. That was a problem. Compton anchoring is a problem. That's in straight drop back situations when you have to brace yourself against a defensive line, pinning its ears back, getting after you. The 49ers need to avoid that at all costs with Tom Compton. They tried to avoid that at all costs in 2020 when Mike McGlinchey was 25 pounds lighter. Well, McGlinchey had solved that issue in his game this season, right? He had gotten heavier. He was an above average pass protector, and then boom, he tears his quad. So the 49ers can't figure out whether to put Jalen Moore or Tom Compton in there. They end up alternating both of those tackles. Tom Compton wins that job after some consternation internally with the 49ers because they knew that he wasn't a good pass protector, but they like his run blocking. And if you could play on your terms, anytime you say, oh, the 49ers aren't throwing the ball enough, well, it's because Tom Compton is the right tackle, right? They don't want plays to get blown up in the backfield by a right tackle who can run block way better than he can pass block. So it's very, very important that the 49ers play on their terms. That's the only way that they solve this issue on the right side of their line. It's just not a good right side of the line in terms of pass protection. But both of those guys are agile. Both of those guys can run block, and the 49ers need to make sure that they script everything according to that. And that only happens when they're playing a complementary brand of football. On to the defense. Defensive line. It seems to me that the 49ers are finally starting to get something out of rushers not named Nick Bosa. And Bosa's been awesome, right? What is it, 12 or 13 sacks at this point of the season? A multi-sack game will put him on track to potentially get to 20 sacks, which would be really cool, and I wouldn't rule it out. But, Ebukam still not doing really much of anything, but Armstead had a nice game against the Seattle Seahawks. DJ Jones is playing really well, especially against the run. Charles Omenihu, he had one of the roughing the passer penalties. At least he pressured the quarterback on the play, right? But Omenihu and Arden Key are just such interesting auxiliary pieces because the body types there are so intriguing for the 49ers as complementary pieces to Bosa and Armstead. Oops, I accidentally erased Eric Armstead off the roster. Undo that. Don't want to do that. And Jordan Willis, the 49ers have been intrigued with this guy for well over a year now, and he had a big sack working against Dwayne Brown against the Seahawks. So you have capable talent here. The question is, how much productivity do you end up getting? And in this room, do you end up getting this guy, Dee Ford, back? The deadline to activate Dee Ford is next week. There's a window right now that the 49ers are dealing with in terms of Dee Ford and that back injury. Will he come back, or is it just going to be a lost cause for this 2021 season? They opened that 21-day practice window. He's been running off on the side at practice. The back is an unpredictable thing. Does Dee Ford have enough bullets left to fire with that back off that line of scrimmage? That's the question. I don't think that there's any doubt that there's, I don't want to say permanent damage, but there's an injury here that's probably going to affect Dee Ford for the rest of his career. He's such an explosive player getting down on that three-point stance, exploding off the ground. I mean, the get-off for Dee Ford is unbelievable, right? That is his game, is the get-off. But when you do that at 245 to 255 pounds, that's been his playing weight throughout his career, and you're exploding with that kind of force off the line of scrimmage time and time again, and you develop a back injury, that back injury is not going to magically leave. So it's about maintenance at this point. It's about it's found money. If the 49ers can find some sense of productivity, if he can give them 10 snaps a game on that bad back, 8 snaps a game on that bad back, it could be a game changer for this defense on critical downs. So if he does give you that, you consider it found money. It's like that $20 bill that's been in your jean pocket that you didn't know about for a year, but it's been there. It's been through the washer several times. You get it. Well, that's what the 49ers will get from Dee Ford if they can scrounge some productivity from him. So they would have to activate him by next week. That's when the 21-day injured reserve practice activation window closes. So either this week or next week, Dee Ford plays. If not, you're not going to see him in this 2021 season. But it's all about finding complementary production to Nick Bosa right here. Linebacker's a lot healthier now. But, by the way, if Maurice Hurst can come back, and I think he's getting a little bit closer. He had a slight setback last week, so that might take another week or two. That's going to be a big piece for the interior line, where Eric Armstead is now playing, by the way. He's at that 3 technique spot almost full time, not at the edges. Because the other edge guys are starting to show something, and they really will if Dee Ford can come back. You have Armstead playing inside. Hurst can fortify that. 49ers looking decent heading into these final 5 games. Linebacker also looking a lot better. Dre Greenlaw, his injury aggravation means he's going to be out in all likelihood. But Azeez Al-Shaair, I mean, he was the player of the game for the 49ers, right, against Seattle. You pair him with Fred Warner. I think Al-Shaair has now permanently usurped Dre Greenlaw. Greenlaw is now the 3rd linebacker, especially with the injury issues that he's dealing with. That's exciting for the 49ers. With Al-Shaair and Warner out there, both guys who have shown the ability to ball hawk and, just create takeaways. That's what this defense needs. This defense is not great anymore, but it can be opportunistic. And the 49ers, a lot of how far they go this season is going to depend on how opportunistic their defense can be. That's why Azeez Al-Shaair's strip and then that near interception, those are 2 huge plays. He had a pick the week before against Minnesota. This is where it's sketchy, is the secondary, right? You got Josh Norman. Makes you nervous, especially Jamar Chase on the schedule right now with Cincinnati. Norman's obviously a step slower. He can't than he was back during his prime, during his Pro Bowl year. He's a guy that I don't trust at all if the 49ers are having to defend a perimeter run in the red zone, right? You just get swallowed up by a blocker. He's a little more physical than I thought he was going to be when I saw him blown up in Buffalo last year. Was that Derrick Henry? Yeah, Derrick Henry got him. But Josh Norman, mediocre at best. You try to hide him, right? And the 49ers can't hide him if they rush the passer well. The problem is he's going to be a lot harder to hide if Emmanuel Mosley is out, which he is with a high ankle sprain. So I should probably change this depth chart because I think that the most likely, well, we'll see what the 49ers do at the cornerback position. I mean, we've seen Diamondo Lenore there. They decided then to go to Dante Johnson because they would rather have the veteran stability than the rookie. So I should probably put Dante Johnson up a little bit higher here and Ambry Thomas down 3rd string because they still don't fully trust their rookies. The rookies, Lenore and Thomas, will have a chance here over these past 5 games. But if the 49ers pass rush is firing, don't be surprised if they go vet stability. And I know a lot of you think that stability and Dante Johnson's an oxymoron, but they'll go with the trusted vet over the rookies. And we saw them, dabble with Lenore the other day, but then go back to the veteran route. Either way, it's not good with Mosley out. And that means the pass rush, these guys right here are going to have to get the job done. You like your safety play. You like Talanoa Hufanga. You want to get more 3 safety sets out there on the field. That might be a little harder now with Al-Shaair and Warner both back. But the cornerback situation is sketchy. And we'll see if the 49ers can assuage that. And I really do think that this is a rush over coverage team. It's going to have to be over these past 5 games. So that's where the 49ers are right now. It's do or die time, right? You have to go out and you have to perform over these final 5 games. The roster is not as strong as it was early in the season. Injuries have taken a toll, but it's also in much better shape than it was in 2020. So I hope that you enjoyed that look at the roster. I have to start heading down to the South Bay, so we'll talk soon. Be sure to check out the roster and check out all my stuff on The Athletic and subscribe to the channel. Everybody enjoy your Thursdays. Take care.